Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward bringing you another conversation. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And of course, sometimes we talk about topics of faith, we talk about movies, we talk about lots of different topics. And sometimes they're just curious, interesting things that I'd like to talk about. And just happens that I found a topic for us today. I don't know about you, but I always have dreamed about being on a jury. And there are lots of people maybe who hear that and they probably dread the idea. Now, there's actually a new movie. It's out by Clint Eastwood directed it. It's on HBO Max. It's called Juror Number Two. And Juror Number Two is about a juror who goes onto the jury, and he realizes, I don't think this is a spoiler, but it's the whole premise of the movie is he realizes that he might have committed the crime that this person is being charged with. So very interesting story, but it gets a lot of people thinking about jury and jury duty and all that. And a good friend of mine who's been on the show before, Anna Nuzzo, has been a juror now. She posted on social media just recently that she was selected for jury duty. And I thought, you know what? This is a good conversation, I think, to have. People might have questions about what it's like being selected and all that. And I thought, why don't we bring someone on and talk about jury duty? Not a topic of faith today, but a topic of our civic duty and responsibility. So thank you, Anna, for joining me today.
Thanks, Father Edward. You saw my post. I was just so excited to have been chosen to actually be on my first jury. And I'm like you. I was hoping to get picked, and I did. So it was really, really cool.
So I received a jury summons maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. And yeah, I wasn't selected at all for that. My business manager was just on the jury call. Like every day she'd have to call to see if she'd have to go to the courthouse. And she never ended up having to go. So again, another person didn't get a jury duty or jury call or selected or anything, just got that notice. So obviously, that's how it begins. You get the notice in the mail. You are being summoned for jury duty. And I think you just hinted at it, but what was your initial reaction when you got that notice?
So this was the second time I've been summoned here in Kenosha County. And the first time it was many years ago. And I actually at that time was doing interior design, and I was really busy. And so at that time I had a pretty steady job, and I was like, oh, I hope I don't get picked because I would have to delay all my projects. So it wasn't the most American attitude, but I know a lot of people have that attitude when you're working. And
oh yeah.
So, and you don't get, most people don't get paid from their employers. They don't have to. There's no law that they have to get paid while they're doing jury duty from their employer. So for a lot of people, they need that steady income. And so many people that I spoke with there did not want to get selected, but it is what it is. So when I got it this time, I am now, as you know, I am doing my own music ministry, and January, February is my slow time. So I am here and I'm available. So this time when I received the notice in December for this week in January here, I was excited because I'm here and I'm available. So that was my attitude this time. And it went really, really well. I'm excited to tell you about it. What would you like to know?
Yeah, I have so many questions. So, obviously I think some people are like, they regret being selected for it, or, this is just another thing, but you had this enthusiasm, excitement about it. So I think the first thing, you get the letter, and then So you had your week assigned to you. And so did you have to call in then? And then you got the message as you called in that, yes, you have to report to the courthouse?
So no, what happened was everyone in Kenosha County anyway, if you get summoned, you need to appear in the court area, this particular room, at 8:30 in the morning. So I reported there, and actually we got all that snow on Monday, and I was like, oh boy, it's like pounding out there, but I made it in time. They actually gave the juror, we get a parking permit, so that's great. We can park in this jury only sort of section, and we could park in the parking garage for free. They gave us the code. So, that was great. We didn't have to park too far, just a couple blocks away. Everyone showed up, and I was amazed. There were about 200 people there. So they summoned 200 people, as long as you're 18 and up, all ages, men and women, all races, everything, slice of life, right? And then we just waited. So we were all kind of crammed in this room. Then someone came in and she told us we will be watching a 20-minute movie. And this movie describes what happens if you're selected to be a juror and if you're not. So if you're not selected, then they'll send you home, and you do have to call in every day, like after 5:30, to see if they need you the next day for a possible case. So you're still sort of on call for the week, unless if they tell you maybe on Wednesday, okay, there's no more cases this week, don't worry calling in anymore. So that's what I actually did last time. I had to just call in a couple days, and then they were like, that's it, there's not going to be any cases, don't worry about it. This time, after we watched the movie, which was very informative, then the woman said that, okay, the judge has arrived. They're getting set up for the trial today, the first trial of the year. And so we do need a jury, and they started calling names. Okay. So remember, there's 200 people here. In my head, I thought maybe they would call like 20 people, because I thought they needed 12. So maybe 24 people they would call. Well, after they kept calling all these names, after about like 35 names, they were still calling names, because I thought I was in the clear. Everyone's like looking around. I was the second to last name that they called, and there were 46 names that they called.
Okay.
So out of that 200, 46 had to line up out in the hall. The first 23 were handed a placard with a number, numbered 1 to 23. And then the rest of us were not handed a number. We had to go in a line parallel to them. So then at this point, they asked us to process into the courtroom. And honestly, I've never been in a courtroom before. So it was my first time in a courtroom. It was actually a little bigger than I expected. And so we all process in. They had the first 23 people file up towards the front in the jury box. And then there were extra chairs in front of the jury box. So those 23 were there. And then the rest of us seated in the first two rows of the, what do you call it? I was going to say congregation. It's not the
Yeah, just
the audience.
Yeah.
Whatever. So we were in the first two rows. So what happened is the judge starts to ask, is everyone here? You should be, but let's just double check. Is everyone here a current resident of Kenosha County? And 4 people raised their hand that they were not. And it turns out they were college students, and they were originally from Kenosha, but they are living at their college town, And he asked each of them, are you planning to return and move to Kenosha? And each of those four said no. So then he had to replace each of those four. Okay. So that's when they took from our section. So that's how I was the fourth person here out of the extra 23. And that's how I ended up in that group of 23. So now, after that was settled, then the ADA, the assistant district attorney, came up and started asking us questions. And he wanted each of us, they passed around a microphone, to state your name and occupation. And then also, if you are in a relationship or married, give the occupation of your significant other.
So what did you say for your occupation? Singer?
I said international Catholic singer-songwriter.
Okay.
That's what I said. And I purposely did that because either I thought it would be interesting to see if, do they keep me because I'm a Catholic, or do they not want a Catholic? And I am. So I just thought, why not? That is my title. And obviously, as you know, they kept me. But so I did that. I said what my husband did, and everyone did that. And the ADA wrote it down, and so did the defense attorney. So that's something they used to keep certain people or remove certain people.
Sure.
Because they can't ask too many things, but they can ask, what do you do? And what does your significant other do? So they get a taste of what sort of your environment is like, right? Your work environment, the sort of people you know. Now, there were some people involved in law enforcement. So they then were also asked, what's your relationship with this person? Will that hinder your opinion in this case? So it was very specific. And there turned out to be a detective in one of these groups of 23. And so they were asking him a lot of questions. They also asked us, these are the names of all the potential witnesses that will be in the case. This is the name of the attorneys and their groups, the judge's name. Please raise your hand if you are familiar with any of these people. Okay. So some people knew the attorneys or the police officers in the case. And then there again, the ADA said, how do you know this person? And they would say it's a close relationship. He's a good friend, or I was in their wedding, or whatever. You have to, speak in detail how you know this person. After that, he'd say, will that hinder your view in this case with this person? And all of the people said no, it wouldn't. So after various questions like that, it took like a couple hours to vet. He's vetting, because he vetted us. And then the defense attorney, she came up and she said he asked already the same questions I would ask. And then she also came up and said, talked about race and stereotypes and things like that. She said, do you think you will, do you have stereotypes or that might hinder your opinion in this case? And it was an African American woman that this was a criminal case for. So she was just asking these questions. And everyone said, no, it's not going to hinder our view one way or the other. We're going to look at the facts. So after that section, then what happens is both the attorneys have a grid of everyone's name, where they're seated in the jury, which they created, and with our job titles and, whatever info they wrote in our little squares. So at that time, they can each cross off people that, they don't want to be on the jury for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So he crossed some off, then he would pass it to her. She crossed some off. She passed it to him. He would cross off. She would. So they went back and forth. And then when they both got it down to 13, they gave it to the judge. And so the judge asked, are you both in agreement with all the names? Do you have any conflicts? And they both agreed. So at that time, the judge started calling off the names. He said, I'll call off the names of everyone who is selected to be on the jury. So if you don't hear your name, when we're done, you may leave the courtroom, and your jury duty is, wait, do they have to call in? Yeah, they still have to call in. So they would call in, the next day to see if they have to do it. So I was one of the 13, and I always was like, I thought it was 12, and then like an alternate sort of thing. But anyway, it was 13. And they told us just be back here at 8:30, tomorrow morning for the trial. And, you'll find out the details then.
Sure.
And so I was so excited. I called Mike and I was like,
that's great. So you got selected for the jury duty. You come back on Tuesday. How long is the trial? Is it just a one-day thing? Did it go several days? Like, what's that? What's that look like?
Yeah. So we didn't know what was going to happen, but so when we came in Tuesday, we found out that the woman was charged with eluding police officers and also second-degree reckless endangerment. And these are both very serious crimes. And so once at that point, we didn't know what evidence the ADA had. So he started presenting his case, and he had about 5 witnesses come up, like 4 police officers and also another investigator come up, showing all this proof. And then the defense attorney was able to come and give her case. She didn't have an alibi or anything else, but she was sort of trying the case like he should have had more evidence, or things like that. But I mean, I can talk about the case if I want, but I'll just talk a little. So basically this person and another woman stole. She was in a theft ring in Chicago, in Illinois, and they stole thousands of dollars in merchandise over a month of period of time. And they had put GPS trackers in at Ulta and Victoria's Secret. That's where they stole a lot of their items and sold it online. So when they were fleeing from Illinois, the investigator, once it passed the state line, called Kenosha, and they were like, this car is coming, bluish green. There's a GPS tracker. She's done this. Please, try to apprehend her. So the deal was, this was January of 2023. So it was 2 years ago this happened. And it was snowing. It was very slippery, treacherous conditions. This was 1:30 in the afternoon, and she was flying on I-94. Okay. So basically the cops, there were 4 police officers that tried to stop her with sirens and PA, pull over, you're under arrest. And she just kept evading, swerving, almost slid out. Once they got into Racine, and there were many accidents already on the I, which we even saw on the dash cam. We watched the cops' dash cam. It was like 15 minutes. So Racine police was busy dealing with all their accidents. They could not take over from Kenosha police. And Milwaukee also, their police officers were busy too, so they couldn't. So since they had the driver's license of the perp, they're like, we'll just arrest her at a later time when it's safe, because the police officers were afraid for their safety as well as all of the passengers on the road. I mean, it was very
Yeah.
busy. So that's why she was charged with second degree reckless endangerment. And once we were given all the evidence, we did come back with a verdict of guilty. And to answer your question, this whole trial was just one day. We were actually done by 3:30.
Yeah. So the
Because
deliberate.
there was a lot of evidence. We deliberated for about half hour, I think. You know, we
Okay.
all went around and asked
Yeah.
questions.
You wonder why this went to a jury trial because, like, it seems pretty, shut and close, case, right? Like, I don't know if they're just hoping or something, but
I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know if all you know if I don't know if all criminal cases do, or if they just
they should have plea
they didn't
bargained
plea.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
she didn't accept a plea, and um, it was it was serious because this charge of reckless endangerment. So I googled it because like examples of reckless endangerment. It's when someone's actions create substantial risk or serious harm to another person or death, injury or death. And the defendant is aware of the risk. So she was obviously aware of the risk, slipping
yeah.
on the road and the police. And so the penalty can be up to 10 years in prison just for that charge, and fines of up to $25,000, permanent criminal record. And then also eluding a police officer can either be a misdemeanor or a felony, depending,
Oh,
how they do it. But they're both that could be up to 3.5 years in prison for that. So it was very, very serious. And when we came back with guilty on both counts, we had a gentleman in our group that said, "Okay, I'll be, foreman if no one else wants to do it," because we were like, none of us had ever been on a jury. None of us had ever been on.
okay.
So he's like, "I'll do it," and we all just kind of, did it together. He had to fill out the form, and but we talked about it. We all talked about it. We all gave our opinions, and we were, because the evidence was so substantial. You know, it was an easier
Yeah.
trial to deliberate. It wasn't that difficult. So we came back. We gave in a piece of paper. We gave that to the judge, and actually the judge read it. We thought like our foreman would say it, like on TV. We the jury find the no. The judge actually read it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was, the woman just started sobbing when she heard the first verdict, and that makes you feel,
Yeah.
I mean, this is someone's life, obviously. So we took the decision seriously, and then when they said guilty on the second charge, she cried some more, and it was like, wow, but the evidence doesn't lie. And there were eyewitnesses to her. They saw she was the driver, not the passenger. And so yeah, it was a pretty cut and dry case. And it took 2 years to
Yeah,
get to this
that's
point.
it shows kind of how slow the legal
How
system
slow the legal
is.
system is, and how many cases they have.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting seeing the attorneys themselves, just all the lingo, like the legal lingo, and may I approach the bench, Your Honor, may I, here is exhibit A. It's different. I love watching crime shows. Ask my husband, he knows, like all the cop shows, I'm all over them. And so he's like, are you like CSI Anna now or something, or Criminal Minds? But I loved it to actually, like I said, to be part of the justice system. It was an honor.
Yeah.
It was an honor, and everyone, we all felt that way.
Yeah.
I got to know a few of the people, and some of them did get paid from their jobs, which is great. But not everyone did. But they were all still happy to do it. And well, we do get paid $16 a day for jury duty,
It's
and apparently they'll reimburse us. What they say, 68 cents per mile round trip. So
well, that's great. So, you do the jury duty on Tuesday, you attend the trial, you the verdict for the person. Do you have to call in the rest of the week, or is
no,
you're satisfied?
we're done. The judge, thanked us. And actually, one other thing I thought was really cool, when we walked in as the morning of the case, we walked in, everyone was standing. The judge was standing, the defendant, the attorneys. And like we walk in and we stood, and he's like, no, you can sit. We're standing in respect of you.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're standing for all of you. And that was like, oh my gosh, the judge and the attorneys are standing for us to come in. So it was really cool. And the court reporters there, typing everything out. And
Wow.
it was,
Has
I
your
highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's not like, I doubt, unless it's a murder trial or something, that it would be a long case. My brother was also called several years ago, and his criminal case, he said it only took 2 days. His was 2 days, and mine was 1 day. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, my question was gonna be, has your husband or anybody else been? So yeah, somebody else has served their jury duties. Well, it just gives somebody something to look forward to, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
whether so I think having a positive experience like you shared, someone listening might be like, I would be very apprehensive. Maybe, hopefully, kind of gives them a little peace of mind if they end up in the box to render a verdict on a case. So, yeah, well, God reward you for your service in that. And what a fun experience.
It was very cool. And actually, when there were 40 of us, right? And then we were down to 23. One of the gentlemen on the jury said, before he got cut, he was on a jury 4 times already. Actually on a jury.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So you wonder how that is. Like, some people might go their entire life without a summons, and then someone else is 4 times.
4 times. And the judge said that it's completely just based on driver's license in Wisconsin anyway. It's a random thing based on your driver's license. He said, and those 4 college students, actually, they were all from La Crosse. And they all said, we're not moving back. We're going to stay. One's moving to Illinois, one's moving. And he said, there would be a way to avoid that, but the Wisconsin legislature does not allow these other ways to choose, summon jurors. We have
Oh,
to go by the driver's license. So their driver's license says they're living here, even though, they're away at
sure,
college.
sure.
So that could have saved a good probably 40 minutes, all that stuff. But that's all right.
Yeah, wow. Well, it's great to
Mhm.
hear the experience. And unfortunately, I think as a clergyman, I probably will never serve on a jury. I'll probably, if I was called and I went, I'm sure like I would be dismissed, but I could be wrong.
Do you think, well, yeah, like even if you didn't wear your collar and they asked you, what is your profession?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I would say clergy. Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe they would keep you
Yeah,
because,
you never know.
they kept, they kept me. I was really the only one who mentioned religion.
Religion. Sure, sure.
But it was kind of like a test because I was debating, do I just say musician? Do I
Yeah.
say, but I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would have thought you would have been dismissed for saying that. So I'm surprised you were selected. But
mhm.
you fit like, okay, well, maybe we want a woman, or we want a woman who is married and is a mother, and so like there's all these different like criteria they probably were thinking you could fulfill. Maybe you're more compassionate, all of that.
You know what? That's one thing they didn't ask. They didn't ask if we had children.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
probably they assume, maybe.
yeah,
Who knows? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's great. So you would recommend jury duty to anybody that gets the summons.
I
Don't
would.
avoid it. Experience it.
No, because it's probably just going to be one day or two, but I'll remember that forever, right?
Yeah.
And also, I forgot to mention, remember I talked about the alternate?
Yeah.
How because we had 13 of us, right?
Yes. Yep.
So the 13th person, um, all 13 of us, let me put it this way, listened to the whole trial. We were all in the jury box, all
Sure.
13 of us. Then, after the ADA closed his case, the defense attorney closed her case. They were done and ready. Then the judge, this is what he did. He explained to us that he said in normally there's only 12, but with an alternate. But in the winter, I like to have 13 because if someone is sick or if there's an accident, we have that extra person. But apparently, like in the summer, they don't necessarily do that. But what he did is he put everyone's name on a piece of paper, all of us 13, and he rotated this like bin. And then he's like, the name that I pick, he was cool. He was actually, yeah, he had a great personality, and he was very nice with us. The name that I pick will be the alternate. So what that means is you get to go home. You do not deliberate with the rest of your peers. You go home, and your jury duty is done, and we will call you to let you know the verdict. So that gentleman actually was the one that was on a jury 4 times, and he ended up being the alternate
Oh,
because we were hoping he would,
be
you
the
know,
foreman.
be the foreman because he actually was before once. But that's the one that got called away, and then we were on our own. But they had, they had a lot of papers with answers to any questions you might have, and we could always ask the judge a question if we wanted to. And the bailiff was there, and anyway, it was really, really, it was exciting. It was fun.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm grateful that you were able to serve. You have that experience. You could tell people about it, and
Mhm.
through this podcast now, able to reach others, and just
Yeah.
to give that experience so that other people can be edified and maybe so moved when they are selected for jury duty and they receive their summons. And yeah, well, thanks so much, Anna, for sharing this experience. I'm grateful for it, and I hope maybe one day I'll have that opportunity too.
Well, we can't volunteer, the judge said. He's like, you can't just call us and say you want to volunteer for jury duty. That was funny. It was a joke. Anyway, I hope you get the chance to, and I am praying for the young woman um, that has this life changing event coming up for her. And
Yeah. Well, isn't that the
yeah,
interesting thing too? Like you're a person of faith, and so like because of that now this person has a remembrance in your prayer every now and again, whether it's a Hail Mary or you drive by the
mm-hmm,
courthouse and you'll think of her. So like
mm-hmm.
maybe that's the best reason why you were selected, is that there can be this eternal benefit, this grace that she can receive because of your prayers. So that's a great way to bring God and spirituality into the question of being a juror.
Well, thank you. And one last thing, um, we thought that they would sentence her, right then and there, but they didn't. Um, they dismissed us, and the sentencing is going to be in March. So I think now not like on TV when they like have the jury in the sentence, they don't do that. So now the attorneys get to, work it out.
Sure. Well, yeah. Will you find out the sentence, or you'll have to search that out online, you think?
I'll just search it out on circuit court. Yeah.
Okay.
Circuit court.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, great. Well, thanks for your time today. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Anytime.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook, X, or Instagram at the handle @FREdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.